But the idea is we're not trying to create a theocracy or create a Catholic-driven government. But what we are doing is bringing the ideas of Catholic social teaching forward as something to consider in basically every issue that comes before the legislature in a way that addresses the common good and respects the dignity of life.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Around the Diocese. This is a program that shares the many ministries of our parishes, the diocese, and the worldwide Roman Catholic Church. We come to you every week from the St. Oscar Romero Studio in the Catholic Pastoral Center of the Diocese of Nashville. My name's Ron Fleitz. Delighted to be with you today. And with us, we have a friend. I think this is your third time, Rick.
I think so, yeah.
That you've been with us. And Rick Musacchio, who's the executive director of the Tennessee Catholic Conference. And many of you will remember him as the editor or publisher, editor.
Editor of the Tennessee Register. And Director of Communications for the Diocese of Nashville from 1998 until probably about 2022, I think, is when I stepped off to focus more on the Catholic Conference. Yeah,
of which we're glad you are, because your programs are always so informative and tell us so much about what's going on when most of us don't. We read it or we hear it on TV, but you need that little extra that you can offer here. And so we're recording this January of 2025, so there might be some other things that may happen here, but this is an up-to-date up to this point. Okay?
Well, great to be with you, Ron. Of course, what's going on in our community, we've had the inauguration of President Trump.
Yeah, just yesterday.
Just coming in. And, of course, we're in the midst of starting the first year of the 2-year session of the Tennessee General Assembly. So things are starting to happen in that world as well. So
I'm sorry, I'm going to take you a little bit of a trip here to help me learn something about this. We lived in Virginia for many years before we moved here to Tennessee, and the legislature gets together every 2-year get together, but they meet every year, don't they?
What Tennessee has is a General Assembly that meets, I believe it's 90 days over the course of 2 years.
Okay.
And so usually what they do is meet the year after representatives are elected, which of course we had a big election for all the representatives last November, and about half the Senate stood for re-election. They come back and organize as the 114th General Assembly, which will carry us until they adjourn at the end of spring of 2026.
Okay.
And they have those legislative days allocated to them. So a little bit of flexibility this year. There's not a hard deadline. And then as they're running out of days next year, there'll be a harder deadline and focus things.
Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take you off too much there. I just want to make sure I understood. Okay. Well, go ahead and tell us what you're going to talk to us all about today.
Well, first of all, a little bit about what the Tennessee Catholic Conference is.
Yeah.
Most of the states in the country have a Catholic conference that speaks on behalf of the bishops from that state. And the idea is that we bring the Catholic voice to the public square. Rooted in the ideas of faithful citizenship, which is a document of the USCCB that's been around since the mid-'70s, updated.
Hard to believe it's that old, isn't it?
It is, but updated typically updated with each presidential cycle. Really starts out with the idea that neither of the two major political parties in the U.S. fully embrace the breadth and depth of Catholic social teaching.
Right.
So what Catholic conferences tend to do is speak on behalf of the bishops of their state. And, of course, here in Tennessee, we have Bishop Spalding here in Nashville, Bishop David Talley, who is the Bishop of Memphis, and the newly appointed Bishop Mark Beckman, former pastor from here in Nashville, serves as the Bishop of Knoxville, responsible for the church throughout the state. We take Catholic teaching on their behalf to the legislature. We take it to Congress on occasion, and we can speak and support on local issues as well. But the idea is we're not trying to create a theocracy or create
Okay,
a
yeah,
Catholic-driven government. But what we are doing is bringing the ideas of Catholic social teaching forward as something to consider in basically every issue that comes before the legislature. But the idea is we're not trying to create a theocracy or create a Catholic-driven government. But what we are doing is bringing the ideas of Catholic social teaching forward as something to consider in basically every issue that comes before the legislature. But the idea is we're not trying to create a theocracy or create a Catholic-driven government. But what we are doing is bringing the ideas of Catholic social teaching forward as something to consider in basically every issue that comes before the legislature until its natural death. And so that gives us a chance to weigh in on issues across the board. And
you're like our lobbyist. Would that be safe to say?
And technically, yes, because of the lobbying laws in Tennessee, I am actually a registered lobbyist, so I have to comply with the guidelines and laws set forth to that. And unlike some corporate lobbyists who make donations as part of their efforts and outreach to legislators, we don't make those kind of financial contributions. But I am before the legislature in their halls and outside their chambers on a regular basis and have relationships with them in part of my background of having covered the legislature for the secular media before I came to the diocese. And then as a journalist in the Catholic press and as spokesman for the diocese, had interactions with contacts at the legislature, and then shifting into this role more directly, seeking to influence.
About a year and a half, 2 years ago, wasn't it?
I think it's closer to 3.
Is it really? Okay.
So it is kind of a bit of a transition. I did it very much on a part-time basis over many of the years that I was with the diocese. And then about 5 years ago, the bishops decided to bring that function in-house to the diocese. And there was a little bit more transition.
I think it was a great idea.
Yeah. And it's an important mission because, Catholics make up only about 4% of the state population.
It's amazing. I came from up north, and it's completely different,
But it's very much. But, but what I do have to say is even being a small voting bloc like that, the governors of Tennessee, the leadership of the General Assembly, and individual members of the General Assembly have been very respectful to and welcoming our input and discussion on issues. And much as we see politicians or civic officials around the country and really around the world looking to the Pope and his statements for guidance and at least react to that. We do have I have a similar experience on Capitol Hill here in Nashville. Even when legislators disagree with us or don't agree with a position that we are advancing or encouraging, conversations are respectful and I always look at things with an idea of, when I can talk about the dignity of life from beginning to end, and talk about how it's really important for to take those kind of considerations into any particular issue. That's really good for society. That's really good for evangelization, really. In that
Absolutely. I'm sure a lot of people don't even realize what all you do, because you think of lobbyists, they're worried about something over here, but here's somebody working for us.
Well, very much. And I've had opportunities to talk to parish groups, always welcome that opportunity to talk to parish groups, diocesan groups as well, to talk about this idea and really rooted in Catholic social teaching that, the idea that the dignity of life is everyone holds that dignity as a child of God. The common good, and we work for the common good, setting up that set of circumstances that helps life flourish and helps individuals or groups reach their greatest potential in the easiest way. We talk about the ideas of solidarity and subsidiarity. That we're all in society together, and when we make a decision, as a community, as a government, as a whatever entity, one thing affects another.
Right.
And the idea of solidarity, that decisions should be taken as close to the level of people that they impact as possible. Our church is structured that way. That has a lot to do with the unity and the communion of the church. Of course, the guidance of the Pope and how that works through the bishops for the entire diocese, and through pastors to parishes.
And in your instance, the state as well.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And so, we look forward to working with that, talking with that idea, and, working again for the common good, and set up those circumstances that helps individuals and groups thrive.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I would almost challenge our listeners out there to learn more about what all you do as the Tennessee Catholic Conference for us, because it's you're almost ignorant if you don't look into it to see everything that is being done on our behalf as Catholics, as people. Because we all got our own feelings and such, but it just amazes me. And you do such a good job in it, and I think it's your journalistic career that really helps you dig in, too.
Well, I appreciate that, Ron. I mean, we have a lot of resources on tncatholic.org, an explanation of faithful citizenship, and resources to track bills and to sign up for our newsletter that we'll be sending out as part of the session going on. It's from my mind, there is a lot of continuity between being a good citizen, being inquisitive about what's going on in current events, and taking the position and with the understanding of Catholic social teaching to be able to assess what's a good position, drive toward, encourage people to work toward solutions that really set up the kinds of processes that allow the common good to grow in Tennessee.
And before you took over this for all three dioceses here in Tennessee, you said there was somebody else doing it. Was that it?
Yes, there was. In the early 80s, at that time, the Bishop of Nashville and the Bishop of Memphis predated the establishment of Diocese of Knoxville. They established the Tennessee Catholic Public Policy Commission, which was a large body, had representatives from each diocese, and of course, in the days before Zoom meetings and Teams meetings and whatnot, it was always tough to bring folks to Nashville and get together and meet. And ultimately, I think over time, the bishops found that it was just challenging to have those kind of meetings and to kind of keep up with what happens. At the legislature, for example, it can be very challenging to keep up with what's going on, and things can happen quickly in unexpected ways. Over last year there were, I think, just under 3,000 bills filed in that 2-year session.
And that's just Tennessee.
That's just Tennessee, and it's interesting to work with legislation that's been filed. Again, it's just the nature of the way our General Assembly has shifted with one party being in control, and this this has been going back to when I moved to Tennessee in the mid '80s. It was largely a one party leadership of the General Assembly. That time they were Democrats. Over time it's transitioned. It's now Republicans, and Republicans actually now have supermajorities in both the House and Senate, and of course hold the governor's office as well. So they really do. The party in leadership does really set the agenda very much, and what's considered, and so it falls to us to bring that voice to encourage them to address topics in a way that addresses the common good and respects the dignity of life.
In case you just joined us, this is Around the Diocese on Nashville Catholic Radio. Our guest today is Rick Musacchio. He's the Executive Director of the Tennessee Catholic Conference, and we're talking about some of the things that they do, some of the many things. We also want to talk about different things that, one of which is right on the cusp here, and that'd be the school voucher program. And let's see, that's something that you've been working with for quite some time, and we're not sure when it's going to come up to a vote, but it's going to probably be within 2 or 3 weeks of us recording this at this particular point in time.
Well, what we know now is we've just finished up the organizational days of the General Assembly regular session.
Okay.
Governor Lee has called a special session of the legislature that will begin on January 27th to look at his Education Freedom Act, which will provide scholarships for students in Tennessee to attend private schools throughout the state. Also to consider hurricane relief for Upper East Tennessee, and of course the devastating floods that followed Hurricane Helene up there. And finally to address immigration issues, which of course immigration policy is a federal is set at the federal level and a federal function, but has local.
It's got ramifications everywhere.
Exactly. And so I think what a lot of people don't realize as we talk about immigration, the church in the U.S. has for more than 20 years called for comprehensive immigration reform. That starts with the idea that the nation has the right and the duty to secure its borders, but should allow for immigration and migration in a controlled, humane, just manner. That our teaching does allow, and part of the common good and human dignity says that people should be able to migrate to improve their lives. Get away from humanitarian disasters or civil conflict. Sure. But again, that should be done in a just and humane manner. So we've called for that for many years, and we'll continue to call for that. And of course, we support the idea of providing help to the needy, and the state surely is in a position to be able to help people recover from the horrific damage in Upper East Tennessee.
Unbelievable.
But as we look at the government's Education Freedom Program, the governor's Education Freedom Program, it's clear that the 147 public school districts across the state do not meet all the needs of many of the students throughout. And of course, Catholic teaching is the parents are the first teachers of their students. Yeah. And we support the idea of helping families make those kinds of decisions where the cost of being able to do that is not a prohibitive thing. I mean, obviously we have people who are able to move to school places where there are good school districts. We see that all the time. Even realtors and officials talk about how we have great schools. Raises the property values of that area, sought after. And people who don't have that capacity to pick up and move to an area where there is a good school really are at
they're a rock and a hard place.
Behind the eight ball, and that perpetuates poverty and crime and all sorts of things. So the idea of allowing a scholarship and the way the proposal is structured, it's basically it would allocate what the state's portion of what would be provided to a local public school, provides that to a parent to direct that to a private school that would better fit their options. And, Catholic schools... Yeah,
so they wouldn't have to move necessarily, just send them up the street to St. Rita's or something.
Exactly. And we're already seeing some success in schools in Memphis, Nashville, and Chattanooga, which have a very limited version of that, targeted to very low-income people. But those schools and these ESAs in those areas have been in place for a couple of years now. Families are very encouraged by those, and they continue to return to those schools seeking a better education opportunity.
Right.
They were not finding. Well, we want to see that expanded across the state, and that's what the governor's plan would do in this regard. And and so we talk about our long-term history of Catholic schools, of serving those in need. Many of the Catholic schools in the U.S. were started to serve children of immigrants who were moving to the U.S. and provide education to help those families move up the economic ladder in the U.S. And again, very much the idea that education helps alleviate poverty and helps build better lifestyles, helps form people to be contributing members of society and to join to join in a productive way.
One of the things we always liked about parochial education was the fact that all our kids wore a uniform. And, when everybody's in a uniform, everybody's pretty much on the same plane, at least at school. And, and that's so priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to recognize the role of Catholic school in that regard and prioritize learning in those environments. And, when you look at the test scores that we have in our Catholic schools, we have a long tradition, a long history of being successful in those areas. Of most of the schools, Catholic schools throughout the state, use the Iowa Test of Basic Skills, which have been around for forever.
I remember.
I took them as
I did too.
As a student. And the idea of those tests, they assess learning and they track the success of classes within schools. They track the growth of individual students year to year. And there's been a lot of talk over the last few years here in Tennessee. Public schools have a third grade retention law where you must be reading at or above third grade level to advance to fourth grade. And gosh, the numbers on that are just shocking.
I'm sure.
Only 33%, 1/3 of Tennessee public school students in the third grade read at or above that level.
That is amazing.
And Catholic schools, what we know is we're well above 70% on that same benchmark. And what we see as we track students who go up year after year, we see that those numbers jump up dramatically. Kids that move from third grade to fourth grade, higher percentages of them are reading at or above fourth grade level, fourth grade, and growth fifth grade again. So as those kids promoted, many of those kids that were not at grade level were close, and with support and encouragement and intensive intervention can achieve and improve letters. And of course, reading is such a core to being able to succeed in schools. But we see similar kinds of things in math and science and other areas of judgment. But, really beyond just the academic strength of Catholic schools is the attention to the formation of the whole student. And of course, teaching the faith as part of that. And our teaching, again, focusing back on the dignity of life from beginning till natural end, on the common good, and being able to allow individuals, groups, families to thrive in society.
Yeah, do you think you would know this, and maybe my question is even stupid, but do you think the legislatures understand how much the Catholic schools, or private schools as well, save the state in education of an individual student?
They talk about that in different ways at different times. And it is that is true. That Catholic schools have been around Tennessee for a long time. Our numbers have ranged in about 13 to 15,000 students in Catholic schools across the state for the last good number of years.
I'm sure
we have there are about 40 Catholic schools, both structured either parochial and diocesan or independent Catholic schools. We have about 20 here in Nashville. 17 of them are diocesan or parochial, 3 independent Catholic schools. those would be students that are in the public schools that are already overloaded, already overburdened. And, and there is an argument to be made that, of course, as, the way that Tennessee does fund most of its operations in schools through sales tax, property tax, everybody pays into that.
Right.
And so as families have, as families choose other options beyond private or public schools into private schools, they generally are paying, financially supporting those public schools while still educating kids in other environments.
We have 90 seconds left, Rick. I want to make sure that you get anything else that you want to talk about. And
we are planning a Catholic Day on the Hill at this point to invite people to come join the legislature to see how the legislature works and things like that. We'll be posting information on that on tncatholic.org, but we are planning it for the Wednesday. I believe it's February 26th. I don't have my calendar in front of me. It's the Wednesday of that last week of February.
Okay, and this will be running before then.
And that'll be a committee day on the Hill, so there will be a lot of activity going on. Committees where a lot of the work on legislation happens. But again, legislators are around, and there's the opportunity to visit with them, talk to them, see how the legislature works, and express ideas on a variety of topics.
Do people need to pre-register for that?
We will have information about that on tncatholic.org.
Okay, and that's very important that they look at that. But do the parishes send out information like this at all?
We'll be sharing that with some of the parishes that are interested,
Okay.
and as we'll be getting word out about that very soon.
Well, that's good. It's I always appreciate all you do for us, and I've just got a slight picture of what you do. I'm blessed because I get to talk to you here, but pardon me, there's so many people out there who don't really realize all the work you do for, the Catholics here of Tennessee. So on their behalf, I thank you for them. It's a lot of hard work.
Thank you, Ron. Always great to be with you, and always available to anybody who wants to talk.
And the microphone's always open for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Musacchio, Executive Director of the Tennessee Catholic Conference. Around the Diocese is locally produced and made possible through the generous donations of our listeners, sponsors, and the Diocese of Nashville. Broadcast worldwide via the Nashville Catholic Radio app, streaming at nashvillecr.com, and locally available at 100.5 FM. We're shining the light of our Catholic faith from Nashville Catholic Radio. Until we meet again, my sincere thanks for listening. God bless you, and have a great faith journey.